Hey everybody, welcome to the Critshow. I am your GM, Rev, and around the table we have got...
Hi, I'm Tass.
I am Jake.
I'm Megan. And I'm Kim.
And normally we do a Monster of the Week podcast, and this is going to be kind of a Monster of the Week podcast. Not even kind of.
It is.
It is.
It's just a different flavor. We're here today to do a Let's Play of Bone Spear. Bone Spear is one of the new settings from the Codex of Worlds. There are a number of tools inside of that book that allow you to set your Monster of the Week game in different times, places, and this one is probably the most extensively done in advance for you. So how is Bone Spear different from Monster of the Week? Well, let me tell you. So here's a summary of changes in Bone Spear that come in the Codex of Worlds. Tracking your community, which develops based on hunter actions. The hunters share membership in the monster hunting group that deals with supernatural threats. The playbooks have been rethemed to fit the setting. Some have only a few changes, while some are completely different. There are some different basic moves. Gear works differently. You'll need to track how worn each item is and repair them if they need it. You can also craft new gear. Luck is now ancestral favor. Spending it works the same, but some aspects of the use are changed. You can always talk to monsters and animals and plants, anything really, and you no longer look for a weakness to defeat the monster or phenomenon behind each mystery. Instead, it comes from a wrongdoing that someone committed. To deal with the mystery, you need to discover what caused it and then work out how to make things right. These wrongdoings can be of many types, such as annoying a spirit, failing to follow a cultural norm or taboo, or doing something morally wrong. There are a number of changed moves, as well as some moves that have remained largely untouched. But as we go through, we will hit each move as we use it. That way you can see the difference between the moves. So we have taken the time before we started this to make our characters for Bone Spear. Setting-wise, the thing that we need to know is that Bone Spear takes place in a prehistoric era. We have chosen to make our environment out in the desert. All of the hunters that we are going to talk about now are members of a community called Oasis, which is kind of the central hub where water flows, and people from the desert can come to this location to get water. So let's start with Tass. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your character?
Absolutely. I will be playing a character named Heroda, and he is the playbook The Loner, which is kind of a revamped version of the Crooked from the original game. So in this, it's just geared a little bit more as being an outsider from the community than, a criminal per se. Though they can be a criminal based on some of the backgrounds. So my stats are +3 charm, +1 cool, +1 sharp, 0 tough, and -1 weird. And I am taking the empath why are you weird move instead of use magic.
Yes, and I should point out that original Monster of the Week, everyone has the ability to use magic, but they did introduce alternate why are you weird moves inside. Well, originally it was kind of a free form that you could get online, and then it was published inside of the Tome of Mystery. So if you aren't using that, it is a great addition as well if you don't feel like every character in your story would be able to use magic.
Yeah, it's so handy. So the Loner Special is fun when you spend a favor point, which favor is kind of this game's version of luck. One of your enemies appears to get in your way, or a favor you owe comes due. So I have some selections for my moves. First, I pick a background, and I have chosen Thief. When you steal something, roll cool. On a 10+, you get it without being noticed. On a 7 to 9, you choose one. Either get noticed, grab the wrong thing, or decide against it at the last moment. So this is my spin on why I'm kind of an outcast from society here, is because I just love stealing.
I just love stuff.
I like stuff. I like having
Especially
stuff.
stuff that's not mine. I want it to be mine.
I hate earning stuff, but I love acquiring stuff.
Then I get to pick 2 from the other selections in the move list. I am going to take Spirit Bound. You pledged yourself to the service of a powerful spirit monster or sorcerer. You must obey their orders when they make a request, or they will revoke your gift. And I pick 1 from a list here. There's several options, but I just went with add 1 to a skill rating, which is why I have +3 charm. Feel like I made this deal to be better at swindling people. Kind of the spin I think I'm putting on this guy is that he sort of fakes being a sorcerer himself, kind of a street magician type, but with some real magic knowledge. I think he does have a little bit, but really didn't want to put the work in, and so is just using this as his shtick to gather a crowd and then pickpocket or, get them to just give up money freely and so on. Then I also took Wild Ally, because we can't do a prehistoric game without some sort of dinosaur type thing as a friend. We can't do it. I refuse. So I have an animal ally, give them a name, and describe what sort of animal they are. So I went with a terror bird, which is sort of a much larger, much angrier dodo bird, big enough to ride. So I think it's something that I had from like when it was a baby, like it was being attacked and I saved it or something like that and raised it to be my little buddy. And also a part that just comes with this is having enemies as the loner. So I get to pick from a list. I am going to pick a monster and I have to answer how did I get in their way. I think this is the reason for having my bird, whose name I'm gonna name it after one of our other shows. I'm gonna name him Gwip. Gwip the terror bird. So I think this monster was hunting the little baby bird, and I chased it off and saved the bird and raised it for my own. And so now this creature is after me. It's like more like pissed that I took its meal. So it's not necessarily coming after the meal anymore. It's coming after me to get revenge.
What kind of creature is it?
Oh gosh, I mean, what do we got out here? Should it be like something magical or something a little more mundane? Like what I'm picturing is just a big predator that's a little smarter than most. Like I'm getting a Ghost in the Darkness vibe of some sort of leonine thing. Yeah.
Okay, so like an older, more clever version of something that's kind of common.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
But it's something that you don't quite know.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I think I'm vaguely aware of it. I know it's still out there. And also I think the other enemy is going to be a sorcerer. And I'm supposed to answer, what did they ask of me and why did I fail to do it? I think they were kind of on to me. Like at first they maybe believed I, had that little touch of magic too, but then they kind of were on to the fact that I'm a thief. And so instead they leaned into that and like wanted me to get something for them. Some, I don't know, maybe a powerful item or something of someone else's that's powerful. And I don't think I did it. I think I have at least enough moral center to want to do the right thing for the people, for the community and so on. And I realized that this sorcerer wasn't on the level. He wanted to do something malicious with this. So I think I was like stringing them along a little bit, like, oh yeah, I got to work on the timing, or, I have to be in the right situation and I'm not quite able to get it yet. And eventually it was obvious that I just wasn't going to do this thing. So I'm on their shit list now.
Okay. And this is a member of the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I am playing Torek, the lore holder, and the lore holder is the modified expert. So my stats are -1 charm, +1 cool, +2 sharp, 0 tough, and +1 weird. So Torek is sort of hermetic, kept away from the rest of society or isolated from the rest of society, and kind of, it's the expert. So he deals with being the smartest person, being the researcher about all of the weird stuff we have to deal with. The luck special or favor special, in this case for the lore holder, is when you spend a point of favor, you discover something happening now is related to something you were involved in years ago. The lore holder gets to pick 2 moves from the playbook. I went with often right. When a hunter comes to you for advice about a problem, give them your honest opinion and advice. If they take your advice, they get +1 ongoing while following it, and you mark experience. And dark past. You dabbled in the worst sort of mystical arts before you return to the community. If you trawl through your memories for something relevant to the mystery at hand, roll +weird. On a 10+, ask the keeper 2 questions from the following list. On a 7 and 9, ask 1. On a miss, you can ask a question anyway, but that will mean you were personally complicit in creating the situation you're now dealing with. And those questions are: when I dealt with this creature or one of its kind, what did I learn? What evil magic do I know that could help here? Do I know anyone who might be behind this? And who do I know who can help us right now? So those are pretty stock to the expert. Other than some kind of phrasing changes to adapt to the setting, the moves are pretty similar. The lore holder also gets a haven. And I get to pick 3 options for setting up my haven. And some of these are certainly different in Bone Spear based on some of the new mechanics for the setting. So one of the ones I went with is a workshop. You have space for building and repairing gear. When you craft in your workshop, your creation has +1 maximum wear. If you want to do something more elaborate, work out with the keeper how long it will take and if you need extra supplies or help. I also chose ritual space. You have an area of mystical power with all kinds of weird ingredients and tools useful for casting spells, like the use magic move, big magic, and any other magical moves. You also have contacts with the shamans and lore keepers who can help with rituals. This can be used to meet certain magical requirements. And my final haven pick was armory. You have a stockpile of mystical and rare monster-killing weapons and items. If you need a special weapon, roll plus weird. On a 10+, you have it, and plenty if that matters. On a 7-9, you have it, but only the minimum. On a miss, you've got the wrong thing. I am going to stick with use magic for my weird move.
Okay.
I am playing Hanwi, and she is the playbook The Other Folk, which is Bone Spear's modified version of the Monstrous from Monster of the Week. My monster breed is Night Folk, which I am interpreting as kind of like a shadowy creature. I think maybe it's supposed to be the modified version of like a vampire, but I'm going kind of more of a shadow creature direction. My stats are -1 charm, -1 cool, 0 sharp, 2 tough, and 3 weird. My ancestral favor is when you spend a point of favor, your monster side gains power. Your curse may become stronger or another breed disadvantage may manifest. And speaking of my curse, I went with vulnerability. It has a lot of the similar kind of curse picks from the monstrous, but vulnerability is pick a substance. You suffer +1 harm when you suffer harm from it. If you are bound or surrounded by it, you must act under pressure to use your powers. So for that substance, it's a little odd, but I went with complete darkness. Being a creature of shadow, if she is surrounded by complete darkness, it's almost more difficult for her to compose herself and not just give in to being shadow. So having at least some sort of light source helps keep her focused. For my natural attacks, I went with a base of magical force, and I added an extra to be +1 harm to a base. And with that magical force, I flavored it kind of like, instead of it being a energy blast, it's almost like a sense of melancholy that takes over the target. I get to pick 2 extra moves. I picked Wild Language. You may speak to the animating spirits within all beings, objects, and places, people, animals, plants, rocks, the air, fires, etc., without needing to awaken them first with use magic. So that is something that is an option in this game for most everyone to do, but you have to use magic first to kind of awaken that spirit within, and with this move, I get to just skip that part. And the other one I picked is Shadow Sight. You can see in darkness as if it were daylight. And for my weird move, I went with one of the new ones from Bone Spear called Spirit Friend. Spirits like you, and one is your good friend. You must follow certain rules to retain its goodwill. Restrictions to how you live, often self-denial, such as fasting or celibacy. Create a spirit ally with the keeper and agree what rules you must follow. You may roll plus weird instead of plus charm when you persuade a spirit.
So what's your little spirit friend?
So I think that Hanwi is not originally part of this community in Oasis, but actually was part of a distant community somewhere else that was attacked by something. But she was very young and was able to escape, but that was when she was sort of turned into this shadow being, this night folk. And so I think the spirit ally is like a shadow spirit.
Is it something that is visible at all times? Like, is it a little shadow near you, or just lives in the shadows near you?
I think it shows up now and then, but it's never something that I've seen directly. It's kind of like when you see something out of like the peripheral corner of your eye, like in the shadow of a corner that you can't quite make out, but you know it's there.
Okay. I've got a list of names that we can give to spirits of different elements that I imagine you'll all encounter. Do you have a name for them, or would you like me to give you one?
Go for it.
Okay. I think your little friend's name is Dusk.
Okay. And the rule that my spirit friend kind of has instilled is that I can't be healed magically. So if I want to heal any harm, I have to use this world's version of a first aid kit, salves and medicinal herbs, things that can be created but aren't influenced by magic.
I am Elsef, the Spirit Touched, which is Bone Spear's version of the Divine. So the Spirit Touched, as the name suggests, gets their powers from entering into a bargain or a pact with a spirit. And we decided that the spirit that imbued me with my power is a spirit of a particular location. It's the spirit of where we live, Oasis. So we have named Elsef's sort of title. She is the water speaker of Oasis, which is a role that someone in the village always fulfills. And another option I picked is, what do you offer the spirit in return for your powers? We decided I must live with the spirit of Oasis. So I feel like this is a role that is always in the community, and Elsef was chosen for this when she was a pretty young child and spends most of her time living within Oasis itself, like living cloistered with the spirit of Oasis, and she only really comes out when there's like a problem to solve.
Yeah, and you kind of act as its mouthpiece.
Exactly, because, you know, I am the water speaker. So, Rev, do you have a name for the spirit of Oasis?
I do. Firth.
Cool, thank you.
And you'll notice that we have a lot of this kind of off the cuff. We did actually do a Twitch stream where we generated all of these characters and stuff that we're sharing with you now. So don't think that we're just coming up with all of this world building.
We are extremely on the ball. More than you could ever hope to be.
And if you want to watch that session 0, you can find that on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/theCritShow.
Yeah, there are some elements of the character creation that we spend more time with there if you're interested in seeing that.
So as the Spirit Touched, my stats are -1 Charm, +2 Cool, -1 Sharp, +2 Tough, and 0 Weird. My Ancestral Favor special. When you spend a point of Ancestral Favor, either your patron spirit has a urgent and dangerous job for you, or one of its enemies comes after you. The moves that I start with are Unbreakable Bargain. You made a deal with the spirit to gain your powers. At the beginning of each mystery, the spirit will let you know what it wants you to do. Ask the keeper for a task, which may be more or less at odds with the mystery. When you make significant progress, take +1 forward. At the end of the mystery, if the task is complete, mark experience. I also always start with Marks of Corruption. The spirit's magic can corrupt you. When you roll a 6 or less on an action using a spirit power, the keeper may require you become corrupted. This may take the form of a physical change to your body, a personality quirk or flaw, or a change in behavior. When you must take a mark, you decide what it is. And then I get to pick 2 moves for the Spirit Touched. So I chose Spirit Paths. You can visit the spirit world. You may bring others with you. Roll + Cool. On a 10+, you travel there safely. On a 7 to 9, you pick. You take longer than you intended, or you pass through a dangerous area. On a miss, you are lost in the spirit world. In the spirit world, you may commune with spirits to gain insights not available in the waking world. And then I chose Lay on Hands. Your touch can heal injury and disease. When you lay your hands on someone hurt, roll + Cool. On a 10+, heal 2 harm or an illness, plus they're stabilized. On a 7 to 9, you can heal the harm or illness as on a 10+, but you take it into yourself. On a miss, your aura causes them extra harm. You can't use this on yourself. And for my weird move, I chose Past Lives, which we have flavored since there have been a long line of water speakers. This is Elsef using past lives, not to talk to past reincarnations of herself, but to past water speakers. So kind of going into like the Avatar state, talking to everyone who has ever been a water speaker throughout the history of Oasis.
All right, next we're going to go over everyone's gear. Everybody gets a bit of starting gear, and you're going to hear them mention a new tag on that gear, and that is the wear rating. So all gear in Bone Spear lets you know how tough it is, how many uses of it you get before it is broken. So when something reaches 0 wear, it's no longer usable. It'll need some work to restore it, and usually done by the crafting basic move. And there are a number of things that can cause wear to an item, but we'll hit those as we come across them.
So I've kind of a bunch of stuff. I think because I like that stealing.
I've stolen it all.
Yeah. From my gear pick list, I have a jade knife that is 6 wear, and that's kind of a lot for this game, and does 1 harm, hand, and then snares and traps that are 2 wear, 0 harm and entangle for hunting, and a fancy hat that is 3 wear and fancy, and that takes the form of like a fancy wizard's hood that, helps my whole allure of being this magician. And then I have 4 things that are just from a list that I just get to pick what I want from it. Those first 3 were from the actual gear list where I select. Then, because of my playbook, I get to just pick stuff that I have
Probably the stuff you've actually stolen.
Acquired, yeah. Absolutely. So from that list, I have a bone flute that is 3 wear, a bow that is 3 wear, 2 harm, and does close and far, and it has arrows for small game and large game. A fire starting kit that's 2 wear, and a leather bag that I use for stealing shit. That is 3 wear.
So as the lore holder, I get to pick 4 monster hunting items from a list on the playbook. I chose a blessed flint knife, 3 wear, 1 harm, hand sacred, a demon mask, 2 wear, magic disguise, an enchanted drum, 4 wear, 1 harm, magic loud, and a bag of seeds, 2 wear, distracting. Which I imagine kind of functions like pocket sand.
Yeah.
It's just seeds instead, just right in the eyes. And then I get to pick 4 things from the everyday gear list. I went with a stone oil lamp, 4 wear fire refill, a leather bag, 3 wear, paints, 2 wear, wooden bead jewelry, 2 wear, and old-fashioned clothes, which actually just come from like the look list. But those last 3, the paints and the bead jewelry and the old-fashioned clothes, all kind of come together into what I imagine like the uniform for this role is. So I wanted to mention them all together.
For gear, I don't actually have a gear pick list, but I do get to pick up to 3 things from the everyday gear list. So I went with a bow, which has 3 wear, 2 harm, and is close far. It also comes with a selection of arrows. I also have a fire starting kit that has 2 wear and a linen bag that has 2 wear.
So the Spirit Touched also does not have a customized gear list. I just pick 4 things from the everyday gear list plus my clothes, which I said were sacred ritual clothes. So my picks for gear are a leather bag, which is 3 wear, wooden bead jewelry, 2 wear, a spear thrower, 3 wear, and a thrown spear gains +1 harm and adds the far range. And you may be shocked to find out that for my 4th pick, I did indeed take a spear for my spear thrower. I have the bone spear. I did it. Title drop.
Name.
I think you win the game.
So my titular bone spear is 3 wear, 2 harm, hand close.
All right. So let's talk about your histories with one another.
For Kim, for Elsef, we settled on relative. Elsef's my niece. I think for a few of my picks, there's just a little bit of an idea of like, they haven't outright exiled me, like, don't let me back into town at all because I have some connections, right? Since she's the water speaker and all that.
Yeah.
That it's more like, all right, you can't, like you can swim in the pool, but you can't pee in the house kind of thing. Like,
so you're just name dropping me a lot when you get in trouble?
Yeah, exactly. They don't really let me in, but they let me around.
I think my niece, the water speaker, would be very dismayed to hear that I've been exiled.
Yeah.
And they're like, fine, you can sleep on the outskirts of town.
Yeah. For Henri, for Megan, we settled on this hunter saved your life when a monster had the drop on you. Now you owe them one. I don't remember exactly what we said the first time around, but I think what we're settling on is that the first time that the beast started hunting me again, like after I saved my bird, that you were there and spotted it and like called it out or engaged it in some way so that now I know that it's hunting me officially.
Oh, like because you've got that dark vision.
Yeah.
See things coming in the dark.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'd probably be out at night a lot.
Then for Torek, Jake and I settled on me coming to him for help with a dubious scheme. What was it? So I needed something. I needed help with like a magical item to help me rob somebody, but you didn't want to know. Like you did, like you're here to help and answer questions about things, and you did so. And I was like, great, thanks, cheers, and went on my way. And so that, I think that was the first connection of, oh yeah, he'll help me out with stuff and not really ask too many questions. We can hang.
He'll tell me anything I want to know. This is great.
Yeah. And because we talked a bit about the water speaker being a long-running position, but Jake's is also like a passed on.
Yeah, we kind of established that the lore holder is like also a title. That it's the person who generationally is in charge of just keeping the knowledge. And like when supernatural things come up and we learn how to deal with them, this is the person who documents them. If there are items related to it, they are kept at this person's haven and like all that kind of stuff. And lore holders can operate differently. Like they all have the same responsibilities, but how they go about them can vary. So some of them are more magically inclined, some of them might be more like hardware inclined. And yeah, so I'm just very much like, I'm pretty morally gray, or just like even morally disinterested. Like that doesn't matter. The pursuit of knowledge is what matters.
And it's free to everyone who wants it.
Yeah, anybody who comes to me, I will provide counsel to and whatever.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I didn't care what Hirota was working on. And even if he had told me what it was and it was a bad thing, I don't care. That's not my problem. Like, you need information, I have it and I give it. Yeah. That's what I do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, which is just sort of the nature of our relationship also. So my histories, starting with my history with Hirota, then from my side it is that we were previously both members of an eldritch group, now disbanded. Ask them why they left, then tell them why you did. And we had established that like there's a variety of kind of schoolings that a lore holder needs to go through, but it's just like a set your own pace type deal for me. So like we were, even though we're not the same age or anything, we were in a same like kind of educational program at the same time. And it was about like eldritch magics and stuff. And just Hirota left because he cut a deal with a patron and didn't need this anymore. And I left because this wasn't my steez. Like, you know, I wasn't a super magically inclined person, and so I kind of got what I wanted out of it, and it was just like, I don't necessarily need the diploma on this. I'm gonna go learn something new. That's what I'd rather do. For Hanwi, they are your student, apprentice, ward, or child. Between you decide which, and we had decided that she is my ward, being like an orphan from her society, that when she was brought here, being a person of supernatural origin, that kind of falls under the lore holder's purview. So among the discussion of like, what do we do with this person, that I was just like, I'll take her. Like, I need to learn about this. This needs to be documented. So I will be her guardian, and that will benefit us all, and it will benefit the records. And then for Elsef, they know about some of your dark secrets, but they've agreed to keep quiet about them. Tell them what they know. And this kind of falls back into that same like, it's only a secret insofar as I haven't cared, like I haven't felt any need to talk about it. So we determined that Elsef, or maybe a prior water speaker, like some of the knowledge that you get from your role is of something bad that I did in the past, like an experiment that I ran on a spirit that we would otherwise consider innocent or pure or whatever, but I was just like, well, I need to know how it responds to this thing. So I did something egregious to a spirit that didn't deserve it, but like I never brought it up because why would I? I learned what I needed to know, and it's done. And so Elsef knows about that, and has agreed to keep quiet about it, I guess.
Yeah, so mine with Torek is they saved you from another hunter who was prepared to kill you. Ask them what happened. And we had discussed this, and I think it was kind of along those same lines of, when I came here, I was very young, but I was very obviously supernatural, and the community was split on what should happen to me. And there was another member of the community that was kind of in a protector role that thought that I should be taken out for the protection of Oasis. And Torek stepped in and became my guardian and saved me from that fate. For Hirota, they are tied to your curse or origin. Tell them how. And for this one, we had talked about Hirota was traveling around and actually was there when my society was destroyed and attacked. And he showed up and was like, oh no, something bad is happening. And then saw what was happening and was like, well, I can't do anything about this. I'm going to have to leave.
But first was like, hey, everyone, I can fix this, and got hired to do so, and then cut and run.
And then,
Yeah.
Oh, this is untenable. Bye.
So as soon as he started heading back to Oasis, me being kind of the lone survivor here, I followed him, like, at a distance. It's not like we traveled together or he brought me here, but I just followed in his footsteps. And I think we'd even talked about how he was aware of that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think pretty quickly I realized it was happening and just kept like leaving little scraps of food at my campsite to make sure you'd get it as you followed and that kind of thing. Just almost keeping an eye on you, making sure that you survived on the trip back, but not wanting to spook you and scare you off.
And for Elsef, I have, you lost control one time and almost killed them. Ask them how they stopped you.
For this, I think it was using insights gained from a previous water speaker to learn your weakness. And I think we were in a confrontation and I just doused the light and put you into complete darkness.
Yeah, kind of my curse started taking over and I wasn't able to really control it. I think we had talked about it being, kind of younger, so this was still kind of new to the both of us. But I kind of lost control and attacked you, and yeah, you killed the light source and weakened me.
For my history, for Homwi, I have you're protecting this hunter for your patron spirit. So I tell you this, you have a crucial role in what is to come. I am here to guide and defend you. I just love the idea of, if you're this supernatural person that is maybe feared by the community, it's like, I love the idea that you are protected by the spirit of Oasis for some reason, a reason that Elsef doesn't even really know about.
Yeah, for sure.
For Torek, I have, they saved your life when your duty got you into trouble. What were you involved in that almost killed you?
Yeah, just from like a simple mistake that it's like, you wouldn't know this if you'd never been out before, which you hadn't. But like, hey, keep your guard up. Keep your hand up on the right side or they're going to get you.
And for Hirota, I have, you've lived away from society for many years. True. This hunter is the one you trust for advice on how things work now, which I think is perfect. You're like the bad influence uncle.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can do that pretty naturally, so we're good on that.
All right, next we have got your community. There is quite a bit here. It was a lot of fun to sit down and build this out. I laid this out before everyone got here, so you've got community members and you've got community resources. So community resources are things that you have easy access to. Community members are people who will help you with things. So your community resources, your common materials are clay, wood, bone, stone, and leather. The one thing that I took off of that list was plant fiber, and I did that to give you an additional uncommon material. Your uncommon materials are flint, hardwood, and colored stone, particularly jade. I imagine that hardwood and flint, especially having ready access to water, makes this one of the rare things you can all get a hold of. And then your community members, we have got Kreb, who is the crafter in town. And each of the community members has a benefit that they can give to the hunters. As you level your relationships up, they get improved benefits and special benefits. But starting off, they all just have a benefit. Once per mystery, Kreb will provide you with an item from the gear list. Tisu is the keeper of the waters, and their benefit is one hunter starts each mystery with a vial of charmed water. It has 2 uses. Spend a use to heal 1 harm or cause 1 harm. Spend both uses to stabilize a hunter. We have Stalno, the head of the watch. Stalno is the person who brings all of you cases. He is kind of part of the augury, but really you are all members of the augury, this group who is in charge of defending Oasis from supernatural threats. And the benefit that Stalno brings is +1 to a roll if the watch is present to help. So that is any roll throughout the entirety of the mystery. And then lastly, we have Signy, who is the cook. Signy's benefit is 1 hunter starts each mystery well-fed, and this gives 1 extra harm box. It is the first box that is ticked off when you take damage and can be healed, so that box stays until the end of the mystery. We find ourselves in Oasis, a place of comfort and survivability in a blasted land. A community of about 2,000 people going about their work, tending to animals, teaching children, building structures, the hustle and bustle of their everyday life. We see a small group, 5 of them, walking into a covered hut. The sun is just getting to the midpoint in the sky, and the high heat of the day has arrived. The man leading the group goes by the name Stalno. He carries a large spear, has a dark beard, and deeply tanned skin. Who do we see following behind him?
We see Torek, the lore keeper of Oasis. He is old. A lot of lines carved into his face from age and just the harsh weather in this place. He wears humble clothes and accessories, but they are clear indicators of his position as the lore holder. He's tall, he's gaunt, he's got very little hair left, and he walks with a bit of a stoop.
Walking beside Torek is Hanwi, the other folk. She is a young woman in her early 20s. She has long brown hair that is kept tied back in 2 long braids. She has a dress made of woven plant fibers. The only embellishment in any of her outfit is the clouds that are stitched onto the front of her dress. She's wearing leather moccasins and has a linen bag at her side with a bow slung over her back.
Walking behind them is Elsef, the water speaker. She is a young woman just barely out of her teens, small, slim. She has dark hair that is wet and pushed back off of her face. Her eyes sparkle with what seems like unnatural light, and she is wearing simple robes with elaborate beaded jewelry layered over top, and she is dwarfed by the very large spear that she is carrying in her hand.
Next to her is Heroda, a man in his mid-40s. He's wearing a sleeveless tan robe that's tattered and sun-bleached. His feet are bare and dirty. He's got a thick, long black beard. He has friendly eyes, and he's got a hood pulled up that, despite the raggedy look of the rest of his clothes, the hood and scarf and small shoulder cape are beautiful, a deep purple with runes etched around the edge of the hood. And he's got a jade knife at his hip. Behind him is a large bird called a titanus, or also known as a terror bird, a large ostrich-sized thing, but much more predatory. But it seems to follow him aloof and mostly disinterested in what's going on.
The 5 of you together, 6 counting the terror bird, are known as the Augury, a branch of the Watch. Your purpose is to investigate those things that are otherworldly. It is not an unknown phenomenon in this world. Spirits are commonplace. They possess all things, and your job is to protect the community of Oasis from those spiritual or supernatural threats. Stalno leads you into the hut, and there is an elderly woman sitting between 2 makeshift beds. On these beds are 2 figures, and instantly you are able to see that they are both covered in severe burns. Parts of their flesh are charred, black. He stops and looks at them both. You can see that they are breathing heavily, but neither of them is conscious.
We found them on the outskirts early this morning. I don't know what kind of thing could burn a man that way and have them still be alive, but I thought it was best to pull all of you together, let you have a look.
The woman sitting between the 2 men, her name is Asa. She stands up and excuses herself and steps outside.
Looks like they rolled around in their own campfire. I want to take a knee and see if there's anything odd about the burns, if there's any pattern to it, just like looking over what might be different about this than, something more mundane.
Yeah, why don't you roll Investigate a Mystery? When you investigate a mystery, roll plus sharp. On a 10 plus, hold 2. On a 7 to 9, hold 1. 1 hold can be spent to ask the keeper one of the following questions. What happened here? What sort of creature or effect is it? What can it do? What can hurt it? Where did it go? What was it going to do? What is being concealed here? What might it want? What is causing this effect? What might fix, cure, or slow down this effect? How far does this effect reach?
3.
You begin to search around on these 2 men, and you get very close to one of them as you inspect the char marks on their skin, and you take 1 point of damage as you touch part of it and you feel it sear you. And it's almost like heat transfers from his body into yours as one of your fingers turns black.
Whoa.
Oh.
God, spirits alive, what is that?
I want to take out my flint knife and try to, remove a piece of this charred flesh with the blade and, drop it into my bag instead without making contact with it.
Why don't you roll Act Under Pressure? When you act under pressure, roll plus cool. On a 10 plus, you do what you set out to do. On a 7 to 9, the keeper is going to give you a worse outcome, hard choice, or price to pay.
Well, 4.
All right, don't forget to mark your experience, both of you,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a fail forward system, meaning that when you fail a roll, you get a point of experience. All right, so first mark 2 wear on your flint knife as you notice that it starts to eat into the stone, and you move it towards the bag and realize pretty quickly that, oh, this is going to burn right through this bag.
I want to grab a couple of kind of flat stones off the ground then and just sandwich it in between those so that the stones will heat more slowly and not burn.
Okay, yeah, I think this will buy you a little bit of time, but you can tell that this stuff is just eating through whatever it touches, except for when it's flesh. When it's flesh, it seems to be staying in place.
I want to hand my spear to Hirota and then push up the sleeves of my robe to show my hands and kneel next to one of the injured men and place my hands upon that burned flesh and try to lay on hands. Your touch can heal injury and disease. When you lay your hands on someone hurt, roll plus cool. On a 10 plus, heal 2 harm or an illness, plus they're stabilized. On a 7 to 9, you can heal the harm or illness as on a 10 plus, but you take it into yourself. On a miss, your aura causes them extra harm. You cannot use this on yourself.
All right, roll it.
That is a 9.
You lay hands on this other member of the watch, and you feel this heat rise into your body. Hirota, standing there, sees the wounds come off of this member of the watch, but the marks on Elsef's arms start to become darker, and you see even little tendrils of smoke rising from her wet hair.
You all right, kid?
I'm fine, thank you.
I turned to Stallno. You said these 2 were found outside the village. Where exactly?
About a quarter of a mile, slightly to the northeast of Oasis. They were found by the patrol group that comes along about 20 minutes after them.
This is unlike anything we've seen before. I think we would be better suited to go see what happened.
Yes, one of the watch that brought them in could lead you out to the exact location. His name is Vestil. I believe he's still on watch at the north gate.
I gesture to Elsef's arms.
Well, whatever this is, it's stable as long as it's on the flesh, but it appears as soon as it's interacted with, it will cause damage. I can take my sample back to the sanctuary, see if there's anything I can learn about its magics.
Very well. Let me know if there's anything you need. I'm going to readjust the schedule, make sure that these 2, that their families are aware of the situation.
And he turns and leaves.
Does anyone know anything that burns people like this?
Nothing comes to mind, but with some time I may be able to drum up an answer.
I could perhaps ask the other water speakers.
If we can go to the place where this happened, I could maybe ask the spirits of the rocks or plants or anything that is nearby if they know what happened.
Yeah, all right. I'll watch your back.
All right, so it sounds like Hawi and Hirota are headed out while Torek heads back to his sanctuary and Elsef. Elsef, do you commune with the other speakers at the core of Oasis, or can you do that anywhere? Does it require connection to the water, or can you just do it any place?
I feel like because all water leads to the center of Oasis, I need to be near water in order to connect with previous water speakers.
Okay.
But not necessarily at the core of Oasis.
Yeah. But I think at this moment, probably the core of Oasis is the closest spot.
Yeah, that would be the natural place that I would go.
All right, so I think we go with Elsef then. The center of Oasis is the closest location. If you have any beginning of mystery moves, now would be the time to roll them.
So mine actually isn't rolled.
Ooh.
I have a move called Unbreakable Bargain. At the beginning of each mystery, the spirit will let me know what it wants me to do. So I ask the keeper for a task, which may be more or less at odds with the mystery. When I make significant progress, I take +1 forward, and at the end of the mystery, if the task is complete, I mark experience.
As you lower yourself into the water of Oasis, you feel the presence of Firth in your head, and Firth is the spirit of water that is Oasis, and the task that Firth wants you to do is to keep the water levels of Oasis from going down. And I think that as you're at the core of Oasis here, where all of the water comes in, you're able to see kind of high water marks on the stone and the bedrock around, and you can see where water has lowered over time. It's not a fast or consistent thing, but you get the impression that Firth wants the water to stay where it's at.
Sure. And now I would like to try to confer with past water speakers. I would like to roll past lives. When you channel your previous incarnations to discover something, pose your questions and roll plus weird. On a 10 or more, a past life has something useful to offer. Ask the keeper 2 of the questions below. On a 7 to 9, a past life has a little experience with this. Ask the keeper 1 of the questions below. On a miss, a past life takes over for a while. And the questions I can ask are, what did a past life discover about blank? How did a past life deal with blank? What important hidden secret can a past life show me the way to? What did a past life learn too late to help them? And what does a past life advise me to do now? 7.
You reach out to the past water speakers, and you lay your hands flat on the top of this pool of water, and a form rises up made of water across from you. It is a previous water speaker that you have made contact with before. She was the water speaker about 200 years ago. Her name is Rishi, and she smiles.
Hello, sister.
How may I aid you, Elsef?
We have encountered something on the outskirts of Oasis, something that we have had members of the Watch return covered in burns. I've never seen anything like it. Have you encountered such a creature or a spirit that would be capable of inflicting such damage? And I show her my hands.
Great. And what is your question that you're asking specifically from past lives?
What did a past life discover about blank?
Yes, I did encounter a creature capable of doing this once. It was a very, very ugly situation. We called them floating embers. They are spirits of the deceased, filled with rage. That rage burns bright. They stem from a source, whatever that location of rage is, and they seek out those responsible.
And as she gives you this answer, you notice that the temperature of the water rises slightly, and her form shifts and bubbles and then turns to steam, and she is gone.
I raise my hands out of the water.
The temperature of the water returns back to normal.
Oh no, I am so sorry. I will fix this. And I leave the center of the oasis to go find Torek.
Torek, we find you in your sanctuary. You've got these 2 stones pressed together with the molten flesh between them. What are you going to do?
I am gathering some of the implements that I have at the sanctuary that will let me more safely interact with this thing so that I can scrutinize it further. Like, I think, I kind of separate the 2 flat stones that it's sandwiched between so that I've just got it sitting on one of them. And then I grab, a flat piece of, glass that was from where a lightning strike hit in the desert. And, I can lay that flat over top of it and, move it around to magnify. And, I've got little bits and bobs that can help me, poke and prod and look at safely.
All right, why don't you roll Investigate a Mystery?
Okay.
While you enhance and magnify.
Enhance, sharpen. That is a 10.
All right, you get a hold 2.
What might fix, cure, or slow down this effect?
The way that you could fix this effect would be to get the pure essence of an ice spirit to calm the heat that is inside of this flesh.
What happened here? Is there blood? Is there bruising? Is there, anything under the surface that would tell me what sort of encounter they had that put this on them?
Yeah, you don't see any signs of bruising or cuts or anything like that. It really seems like just the simple act of touching whatever this was past this burn.
Okay.
And I think about that time Elsef arrives.
Yeah, I'm running in I have a purpose, I have news to share, and then I think the moment that I step into this space, there is this childlike curiosity of looking around and seeing what has changed since the last time that I was here, because I don't get to go out very often, and I don't get to see the world beyond the center of Oasis all that much.
There must be more than this provincial.
Exactly.
She's reaching up for something on a shelf, and I'm just scooping her under the armpits, nope, moving her somewhere, somewhere safe. Don't touch that.
Oh.
Hugely deadly.
Sorry. I did speak with another water speaker. This is the work of something called a floating ember. They are the spirits of the deceased who are fueled by rage. They spill from the epicenter of whatever event caused them to occur in the first place and then hurt and infect those who draw near.
Hearing about, like, the name of the thing and the concept behind it, I want to consult my dark past. I want to trawl through my memories and see if that rings any bells. Dark past. You dabbled in the worst sort of mystical arts before you returned to the community. If you trawl through your memories for something relevant to the mystery at hand, roll plus weird. On a 10+, ask the keeper 2 questions from the following list. On a 7 and 9, ask 1. On a miss, you can ask a question anyway, but that will mean you are personally complicit in creating the situation you're now dealing with. When I dealt with this creature or one of its kind, what did I learn? What evil magic do I know that could help here? Do I know anyone who might be behind this? Who do I know who can help us right now?
All right, roll it.
That is a 10, which gets me 2 questions. What evil magic do I know that could help here?
If you took all of the burned flesh and made an offering to a fire spirit, you could be rid of the living element of this burn. The downside of that is that, spirits are in that other plane. And if you made this sacrifice, it would bring the fire spirit to the physical plane. And there would be a high chance of collateral damage of having a fire spirit in Oasis.
All right. When I dealt with this creature or one of its kind, what did I learn? I'm imagining that as I established, I haven't dealt with this exact thing, but maybe something similar.
Yeah, in the past, you have dealt with something similar. It was called a dust devil, and it is very similar. Spirits of the deceased who perished in their journeys through the desert. And I think the thing that you learned is that when you deal with things like floating embers and dust devils, these are human spirits, people who have died from a thing, an event, a moment, who are then imbued with another element, something close to them, something that can feed them and almost corrupt them and make them this destructive force. So I think the thing that you know here is that dealing with the dust devils, that was an element of earth that had gotten into those people.
Mm-hmm.
This clearly is an element of fire. So somewhere there is an element of fire that has fed or is feeding the anger of these spirits.
Well, I've never encountered a floating ember specifically, but I did once deal with what we called a dust devil. I believe they are of the same cloth, people who perished in a heightened emotional state and in proximity to one of the elements. The element feeds, it corrupts them. Those who formed dust devils perished in the sand. Perhaps what we're looking for perished near the fire. I do have a way we could simply eliminate this problem, but it would bring with it quite a risk of fire all our own.
Do you think we then leave Oasis to seek somewhere where there is a great fire?
Let's wait for word from the others, what they see on the boundaries.
And I pull out my flint knife and I want to set to work fixing it up. So I just point to a honing stone near Elsef and I'm like,
hand me that and the cask of oil, please.
All right, why don't you roll crafting?
That is a 9.
All right, so you can restore 2 points of wear, or if you take extra time, you can restore 3.
Yeah, it only has 2 wear anyway, so that is sufficient.
A thought occurs to me as Torek is repairing his melted knife. When I was resting within the center of Oasis, when my hands touched the water, it began to form steam and evaporate. I am wary of resting within its waters again until I find a way to heal my hands. And yet, being close to the center of Oasis is the source of my power.
If we find time to commune, I believe I know how to repair your hands as well.
All right, thank you.
Outside of Oasis, Hanwi and Hirota, you have been led to the location where the 2 members of the Watch were found by Vestal, and the sand here is different. You can see that there are parts of it that are almost as clear as glass. There are sections of it that are blackened, and you can even see a set of blackened footsteps headed to Oasis from further to the north. But then there is only char here, like there are no footsteps leaving this place.
I lean down into the sand and I want to pick up part of this glass that has been formed, and I would like to try and communicate with the spirit of the sand.
All right, so normally this would be a use magic roll to communicate with the spirits, but you have an ability that lets you just innately do that, correct?
Yes, my wild language move, so I can speak to the animating spirits within all beings, objects, and places without needing to awaken them first with use magic.
You open up your senses and you can feel the presence of the animating spirit of the shifting sands in this area. You can feel that it's injured, that it's shy, hesitant almost, which is not natural for this area because the sand has such a dense control over this location.
My friend, what happened to you? Who did this?
Scorching heat, hotter than the noonday sun. A creature walking on 2 limbs left a scar across my body and a final blemish in its demise.
So it's gone.
Yes,
There were 2 people here. They came in contact with this creature. Do you know what happened?
I felt the pattern of the burn and the scorch. The encounters of man on the shifting sands is not of my notice.
This creature that burned you, it came from the north. How far does its reach extend?
I am but a fraction of the sands of this place. They extend beyond my feeling to the north.
I look up to Hirota. Some creature, scorching creature, came down here and it burned out here, but it came from the north.
Burned out?
Scorching heat. I don't know exactly what, but it walked on 2 legs.
So is it ended then? It burned out and did all of this? Used itself up?
It seems to be that way, yes.
Well, this may be over before it began then.
But it came from somewhere, and if there was one, there could be more.
Yes. I think I'm on my terror bird's back. Gwip. I'm just looking out over the sands. I've been keeping an eye out for any of the more mundane predators, but just looking to the north. And, I've traveled a little. Do I know of any smaller communities or anything up that way that I would think could be walkable?
There are so many small scattered communities. You know that a number of them could be walkable, but I think you also don't know if these have the same limitations, like whatever did this as a human.
Sure.
Trying to make that walk.
If it was a person, someone burned up like them, walked its way all the way down here, can't have come from too far, but if it was something else, yeah, we might have to consider some other options. At the very least, increase the watches and make sure people are wary about anything odd coming across the sand. I'm going to hop off of the bird and just kind of pace around to the most disturbed area and try to find those footsteps and just kind of take a look, see if anything about any of these marks stands out as something familiar.
Yeah, roll investigate a mystery.
10.
All right, you get a hold 2.
So just looking at all of this chaos, can I gauge what it might want? What was the purpose of what it did here?
You look out over the sands and you see these footprints that are leading this way, and there is all the char and the bits of glass from the heat applied to the sand, and it seems like it did exactly what it wanted to do. It traveled until it found people, and then it took out its rage on them.
Okay. So I think I'm in a kind of a reactionary mode here because I always am. I live out here, I find little spots and I stay on the outskirts. So I'm trying to get a gauge of what to look out for and what to defend against. So, is there a way with these patterns, with the burn, with any other reports that I can figure out what happened? What did it actually do?
Yeah, the pattern isn't super clear because of the way that the sands are shifting. But thinking back to, how long ago this must have happened and the direction that the wind is blowing, you can pretty easily imagine what this pattern on the ground of glassed and blackened sand looked like, and it seems like whatever this was approached these 2 people and exploded.
Come here, look at this.
What is it?
It's all very flattened, glassed out a bit, but there wasn't a fight. Whatever did this didn't come up and accost them. They didn't battle this. It just strolled right up. And then this. They may not have even been expecting trouble.
Do you think maybe it does not look like a creature? It looks more like a human, so it can get close?
Maybe. Or at least some mix of not scary enough that they wouldn't approach it, or just intimidating enough that
they approached to stop its progress and weren't expecting it to be this dangerous.
Maybe the others have found more information.
Yeah, I can't make heads or tails of any of the rest of this.
We should probably get back.
All right.
I'll set the shard of glass back down and head back into town.
All right, you all turn back and head towards Oasis as the camera pans out, showing these mysterious footsteps leading deeper into the desert to the north. This Let's Play of Bone Spear is a Critshow Studios production. Bone Spear and other alternate Monster of the Week settings can be found in the Codex of Worlds, a new Monster of the Week expansion. You can find Monster of the Week and other Powered by the Apocalypse games at evilhat.com.